been quite a rocket ride over the last 6 or 7 weeks since we put out a fairly significant drill hole on one of our targets on our property at LDS in southern Brazil. Read the fine print. So just to give people a sense as to what we're all about, we actually went public in April of 2022. We were spun out by our predecessor company called Amarillo Gold. Amarillo was taken over by Hochschild's Mining for a development or a shovel-ready project in central Brazil called Mara Rosa, which is located here in central Brazil in Guyana. It's about a 1 million ounce open pitable project. It's being developed to production, should be in production in about May or June of 2024. We actually created a royalty, a 2% royalty on all the exploration ground around that project. So it's something that's valuable that not a lot of people are aware of. But really our focus is in southern Brazil on our LDS project. It's in Rio Grande do Sul state, which is the southernmost state in Brazil. This project was actually discovered by the Portuguese in the late 1700s. We have at least 23 known gold showings on the property, and really what we've been able to do is consolidate the land package and systematically start exploring all of those showings. In terms of our capital structure, we currently have 41.1 million shares outstanding. We have about 3.7 million options. We have no warrants, so we're very fortunate in the sense that we do have a very tight capital structure. I think that's very important because if you want the torque in your share price, you need to keep your capital structure really tight. In terms of our shareholder base, management and insiders are about 24% of the company. So we're strategically aligned with all stakeholders to try and create value through our exploration efforts. Eric Sprott is 16.6% of the company and very supportive of what we're doing. And then we have a mix of institutional and retail. Just to give you a sense as to where we are and what the ground looks like, as I mentioned, we're in southern Brazil. Basically, Sao Paulo is here. It's about a 10-hour flight from Toronto. You take another flight down to Porto Alegre. That's the major city of Rio Grande do Sul state. It's about 1.5 million people. You drive for about 4.5 hours down tarmac road, just like this. Basically, it's rolling farmland and agricultural sort of land. We have power, we have roads, we have good infrastructure, water, and so on, to the town of Lavras do Sul. It's a small community, about 7,000 people, kind of farmland, cattle ranching, that sort of thing. We have an office there where all of our employees, or virtually all of our employees, are from that town. That includes our geologists, our country manager, our land people, and so on and so forth. In terms of the geology of our project, what we're dealing with is, again, an intrusive hosted gold system. So what does that mean? Well, basically what it means is we're dealing with the remnants of an old magma chamber. So this is a sort of a view of a volcano. And our rocks are about 600 million years old. Basically, they've been eroded. So when you walk the ground, we're essentially walking on the remnants of that old magma chamber and then the overlying volcanics, or at least what's left of them. If you imagine you're sitting in a helicopter looking straight down, this is what you see in terms of our geology. The circular feature is what they call the Lavras do Sul intrusive complex. Again, that's the remnants of that old magma chamber. To give you a sense as to scale and size, this intrusion is about 11 to 12 kilometers in diameter. As I mentioned earlier, the Portuguese arrived here in the late 1700s and started mining what was probably visible gold throughout the intrusive complex and into the overlying volcanics, which we show here in the green. And so we've identified, or what we define are about 23 of these known gold showings. In reality, there's more than that. There's probably hundreds of them, but these are the 23 big ones that we talk about. What we've done over the years is we've consolidated this land package. So we currently have about 22,000 hectares of ground and contiguous claims, about 29 claims. And we went public with $10 million in cash. And so we literally got 2 drills on site. We started with a 16,000 meter drilling program, and we've been systematically drilling away literally every day since we went public in April 2022 to basically try and understand the geological baseline and understand the nature of the mineralization of these targets. So in that time, we've actually announced and made 6 new discoveries. We've reinterpreted 1, And we also control a million ounces of gold in 2 of these 23 deposits. So we have 500,000 ounces in a project called Butia down here, which is our most advanced project. We have 500,000 ounces at Cerrito, which is another one of these 23 discoveries. And then we systematically started exploring. So we've made a discovery at Zekasuza, Matilje Extension, Galvo, Fazenda de Posto, which has got everybody excited. And then we've reinterpreted results at Canalera. That's a kilometer-long gold-bearing structure that was drilled in 2007, 2008 by our predecessor company, Amarillo. So what can I say? Fazenda de Posto, I would say since we went public, you know, just like every other junior resource company that's been in this very difficult market, we've been putting out really good, consistent results. And I would call them sort of singles and doubles, not really getting a big market reaction from the investment community. However, that sort of changed when we put out this Fazenda de Posto hole. And you know, it's 340 meters of 1.09 grams per ton gold, continuous mineralization with a higher grade intervals in between over 2 grams per ton at 68 meters, for example. And this truly was a blind discovery. It was based on really good field work. Let me just go ahead. We have 500,000 ounces at what we call Butia. Again, that's our most advanced project. We've drilled 78 holes, about 20,000 meters into that deposit to define that 500,000 ounces, which is still open, by the way. But that was our baseline. And what we did was we reinterpreted Butia. We took a look at all the historical drilling. We relogged the core. And we noticed that there was a high-grade zone right here in the northwest sort of corner of the deposit. And it was associated with elevated lead values, actually, which is one of the metals we look for in terms of defining this type of target. And then as we looked at the data, we noticed there was it just sort of stopped. And when you look at our magnetic data and you look at even Google Earth maps, we noticed there was a northeast trending structure, basically this, a fault. And when you're standing on the side of the deposit, you look down, we saw what we call recessive topography. And so basically one of our more experienced geologists suggested that maybe what was happening was that there was some hydrothermal alteration in these granites, these granitoids that are hosting the mineralization, and that we were getting some kind of a volume reduction, and that it was manifesting itself in this recessive topography. But there was no soil anomaly at surface. There was no real surface expression of this deposit. And we said, well, why not? We got a high-grade zone right on the west end of Butia. No one's ever drilled here before. We got to make sure we're not walking away from something. So we put a hole in, we collared it, and we drilled to the northeast. And lo and behold, we went through about 114 meters of what we call cap rock, and then we went right into the zone of mineralization. And this is a west-facing section, sort of shows you what it looks like. Again, we've got this cap rock. We call it a sort of a salmon-colored altered granodiorite. If you look at this rock, you can see it's starting to get, it looks like an original sort of granite that you would see on your kitchen top table, but it's altered. And so we drilled through about 114 meters of that, and then we got into this zone of what we call epicyanite. This epicyanite is very, once you see it, you know you're in the zone, but the key takeaway is that it's got this kind of brick red coloration, and the way the mineralization is formed is very disseminated in its nature. And therefore, from a mining perspective, that's what you want to see if you want to mine sort of bulk tonnage, low-cost sort of methods. And then we went right through that for 340 meters, and then we got into what we call perthitic granite. Just to show you what it looks like in detail, this is just a typical example of the ore zone. Again, it's got this sort of brick red coloration. Actually, that brick red coloration is barium and iron. There's a little bit of hematite in there as well. Barium is an alkaline metal, as many of you may know. Alkaline gold systems can be very, very large. Some of the largest in the world are things like Porgera in Papua New Guinea, 35 million ounces. That's Barrick and Zijin Mining. Things like Cripple Creek in Colorado, that's just under 30 million ounces. That's Newmont. So when you see these alkaline systems, for whatever reason, in the gold world, these systems can be very, very big, and we suspect we may be onto something like that, or we hope we are anyway. What's also interesting is that we get some very high grade in this long interval of 340 meters. I put this sample in here because it really does show you that there's more than one mineralizing event here at Fazenda de Posto. So we can see we've got the original epicyanite mineralization, that's sort of phase one, but we also have the centimeter scale sulfide veinlets actually crossing through the original mineralization. So what that's telling us as a geologist is that we've had multiple pulses of gold mineralization, and it's actually enriching these zones. And so we're hopeful that we can find more of this to find a sweet spot within the system that we're drilling off. And here's another example of 4 grams per ton. Just notice you're getting this sort of network of sulfides within the matrix to these fragments. And again, where we see elevated sulfides, we're seeing elevated gold grade. So very, very healthy looking mineralization for this hole. And just to give you a sense as to what we're doing in the near term, basically we're going to continue drilling this off to try and understand what we have. As I mentioned, we have 500,000 ounces already at Boutia. We're actually drilling here right now as we speak because we know we can improve the footprint of this zone, which sits right at surface. And I suspect that will happen over time. We just have to keep drilling. And then we're obviously going to be drilling this new discovery at Fazenda de Posto. This will become the center of gravity for our work in the near term. We want to see what we have here. But what's interesting about this particular project is it's not just about Fazenda de Posto and Boutia. As I mentioned, we've made 6 other new discoveries in the area, so it's a district scale play and a very, very large mineral system. Let me see. Yeah, so I think that's probably all I want to say for now, but we have a booth in the corner, so if people have further questions, just feel free to swing by and happy to answer any questions you have. Thanks, Joe.